Welcome everyone. Today's session is going to be an introduction to Glide and disclosures, and will take approximately 50 minutes of your time. Let's get started. During today's training, we're going to first take a look at an overview of Glide's platform. Then we're going to take a look at how you can adjust your account settings. Next, we'll run through the process of creating a new transaction and also requesting seller disclosures, as well as how to order NHD reports and also complete the avent. Lastly, we'll finish the training today by reviewing how to share those disclosure packages. First off, I want to let you know a little bit of information about disclosures and Glide. So for the past 3 years, Glide has been working on solving the #1 problem for real estate agents, which is disclosures. Disclosures are the #1 source of liability for sellers, and that accounts for 65% of E&O claims. Disclosures are generally time-consuming, they're cumbersome, and the average claim is $30,000 nationwide. Now, there are currently a couple options for sellers to be able to fill out these forms, and CAR has done a great job by creating a standard for compliance by creating disclosure forms like the transfer disclosure statement or the seller property questionnaire. However, using paper forms is a completely manual process that often leads to incomplete answers and does not offer agents any type of audit trail. Then there's systems like DocuSign, and they've done a great job of bringing these forms online, but it's still the same line-by-line form filling experience. And many homeowners may not understand some of the questions or technical jargon while they're going through that form. There's really no guidance or any check and balance system to make sure that they're properly filling out those forms. Now, Glide, on the other hand, is the nation's fastest growing disclosure solution. It's safer, it's simpler, and it's more efficient than the competition. You can think of us as TurboTax for seller disclosures. The Glide platform is going to guide sellers through the disclosure process in a digital format, and that can be completed either from a computer or from a mobile device. Now, the guided interface is a lot more interactive and a lot easier for sellers to be able to use. Agents can also complete their avent from their mobile devices, which allows you to walk around from room to room. You can take pictures, use voice to text, all to complete those observations for that form. And then once you complete your seller disclosures in your avent, Glide is then going to give you the tools to assemble a comprehensive disclosure package. You can even add additional documents that need to be completed, and you can add them to the package to be able to send off to clients. Currently, over 40% of all the homes sold in California are trusting Glide for their disclosures. And we currently have over 60,000 agents that are using Glide for their transactions, with a total property value of over $85 billion. We've also partnered with over 60 different local associations and MLSs, and currently hold a customer support satisfaction score of 95%. Now, to verify your account to make sure that you can get access to the form library in Glide, either as part of the workflow when you're signing up for a Glide account, or when you're prompted in Glide, you're first going to enter your NRDS ID. Then you'll enter in your last name, and finally, you'll click Verify. Once your account is verified, you're now going to have access to the entire CAR standard form library. We also recently launched our mobile application for iOS, and that can be found in the App Store by searching for Glide for Real Estate Agents. Just look for that Glide logo on the left, that purple and white logo, to ensure that you're downloading the correct application. Now, we are going to have an Android app coming out later in the future. All right, so now that we've covered Glide's platform overview, we're next going to take a look at how to adjust your account settings within Glide. To be able to edit your profile information first, you're first going to click on the Profile dropdown within Glide. To be able to add or remove any professional settings, you're going to click into the field on the top right-hand side. If you do make any changes, click on that Save icon. You can also add a profile photo by clicking Upload Photo. You can edit any of the basic profile information, including your first name, your last name, your phone number, or your DRE license number. You can also edit any of the brokerage firm information, including uploading a brokerage logo, editing the broker firm name, license number, phone number, or branch address. You can even add a website for the brokerage in this section. Once all changes have been made, you'll click Save. To edit the account preferences, first you can add additional email addresses for your Glide account. You click Add after entering in the new email address. You can select which account is default if you have more than one email that is used on that particular account. To change your password, click the Change Password button and follow the prompts. If you need to verify an agent and transaction coordinator relationship in Glide as an agent, you can enter the email address of the assistant or TC, then click Invite. If you need to verify the agent and transaction coordinator relationship within Glide as a transaction coordinator, you can enter the email address of the agent you're supporting, then click Invite. To edit your transaction and privacy settings, from the Account Preferences section, you can select a default legal name format as well as the Join Legal Name format. If you have a Glide Pro account, you can enter the default clause for the avid, which will always show up as the default language for other known observations that were not specified on the form during the avid workflow. Also with a Glide Pro account, you can turn the toggle on to enable the Safe Avid in Glide, which will provide you with a semantic analysis of any of the common wording that should not be used when filling out the avid. If you make any adjustments to these options, click Save before continuing. Under Other Settings, you can check the boxes to opt out of any upcoming and beta features, which will ensure that you do not receive any beta features in your Glide account. You can also check the box next to Premium Seller Features to ensure that sellers will not receive any notifications about purchasing Premium Seller features on their own when filling out disclosures in Glide. Lastly, under Privacy Settings, you can check the box next to Opt Out of Data Sale. Glide does not sell your data to any third party. However, Glide does report certain usage data to your individual association, as outlined in Glide's privacy policy. If you would not like any of the information sent from Glide to your association, then check the box below and click Save. To edit notifications and add reminders, you can uncheck any box next to each of the individual notifications. All notifications will be checked by default. If you make any adjustments to the notification settings, click Save. You can also add reminders for your sellers to fill out their disclosure forms by clicking on Add Reminder next to Seller Disclosures. Or you can add reminders for an agent to fill out an avid by clicking on Add Reminder button on the bottom. There are currently 8 options to use single sign-on to log into your Glide account. Once you click on Link Another Account, you can select either Google or one of the 7 MLSs that we partner with for single sign-on. You can also add service providers to help streamline your interactions with those service providers that are involved in the disclosure process by clicking Add New, then entering the service provider's email address or a referral code. The address book houses all of the contacts that have been added to your Glide account. You can search your address book. You can click Import to import contact information from a Google account, or you can click Add Contact to manually add contacts to the address book in Glide. You will be able to view the name, email, phone number, and creation date for each contact. Now that we have reviewed how to adjust your account settings, we'll next run through the process of creating a new transaction and requesting seller disclosures. For this section of the training, I will first show you the process of what it looks like for a seller to complete their disclosure forms. Then we will go into how to create a transaction and send the disclosure packages to a seller. So at this time, take off your agent hat and put on your seller hat for the next few minutes. I will show you the agent's workflow shortly, but for this section, we will be looking at the seller's point of view. After you send their disclosure package, they will receive an email that looks just like this one, where the text is customizable, so you can input any language that you want. It will essentially say that you have a legal obligation to disclose. These are the forms that are required to be filled out, signed, and sent back. Then they will need to click the big button down in the middle that says Get Started. And on the first page that they're going to see is the Disclosure Information Advisory. Now, because we're bringing this process online, we can increase the standard level of care as an agent, since we require every seller to read the disclosure advisory first before they can continue to complete their forms, much like a typical terms and conditions. Now, as an agent, you will see a timestamp within Glide letting you know down to the exact minute when the seller accepted the disclosure advisory. On the right, in the mobile application view, you can see that the page asks, which of the following items does the property have? What we have made is a pick list that they can choose from, and maybe they don't know what 220-volt wiring is. So if they hover their cursor over the little information icon and click on it, or tap on it on the mobile device, it's going to display a picture as well as written information about that object in question. Now, we will never tell a seller how to answer a question. We simply just explain to them what the question is asking. The seller could be filling out this TDS while you're in a listing appointment, so you may be unable to answer the phone to answer their questions. In most situations, if they're filling out paper forms, they would likely put down their pen, forget about the forms for a week, or even worse, they skip over this section and submit the forms incomplete, which would create many issues having to go back and forth with the seller trying to get the forms completed. Now, when using Glide for disclosures, the seller will be guided through the entire form, and it's going to enable them to provide the most complete and informed disclosures. If those written explanations are not enough, they always have the option to flag the question as well. They can flag the question, then leave a comment for the agent to review. And you will receive an email afterwards as an agent with a direct link to the questions on the form where the seller is having difficulty. And you can then email or call the seller with an answer to their question. As an agent, you will also have access to the full activity log. Anytime someone accepts the disclosure advisory, starts a form, completes a form, or submits a form, all of their activity will be tracked all in one place within Glide. And this activity log is for all documents in all steps in the transaction, not just for disclosures. One thing that we find when using Glide is that we get much more complete disclosures as well. When people are filling out the disclosures line by line, there may be a limitation on traditional forms when adding additional information because they run out of space on the form. When they're using Glide, any text that does not fit within the original form is going to be added to a text overflow addendum so that sellers do not feel constricted with their answer. They can elaborate on the issue in as much detail as they feel necessary. And this is going to help ensure much more complete and comprehensive disclosures. And probably one of the most loved features by risk managers and brokers is that we do not let sellers submit incomplete questions. And you'll see on the left that there's green check marks next to each section except for property issues. During the review process, it's going to show any questions that were skipped. So before a seller can submit their disclosure forms, they will need to answer all of the questions in the form. On the agent side, you will even be able to see how far along the seller is in completing their disclosure forms. So for instance, this form would say they are 98% complete and they only have 2 questions left to answer. Once the seller has completed and submitted all of their disclosure forms, it's then going to allow you to generate the forms all from one single place within Glide. And I will be showing you shortly how to assemble and share these disclosure packages. But first, I want to give you a little information on the premium seller disclosures. Now with premium seller disclosures, which is part of the pro version of Glide for either $35 per month or $300 per year if it's paid annually, agents are going to get some additional perks when they're using Glide. Now, over time, we've learned how these forms work and how we can continue to protect you and your seller better, which is why we worked with risk management professionals such as lawyers, brokers, and E&O providers to identify the 18 most common sources of claims on the TDS and the SPQ, and we've added them directly into Glide. These will be highlighted by the siren up in the top left to make sure that sellers know that this is a really important section to pay attention to. And we've also added expert content that you can see in the bottom left that explains the most common risk factors for sellers, and it also provides supplemental prompts for disclosing important facts. For instance, if the seller has reoccurring issues with their exhaust fan, it'd be a good idea to include additional documentation such as an invoice for recent work that was done. And we also highlight on the bottom right any words that shouldn't be used, such as a seller using the wording that there is a small crack in the ceiling. The word small is subjective, so instead, the seller should just put that there is a crack in the ceiling. There are about 120 terms in that hot list that we will either encourage them to remove or update. In addition, also as part of the Glide Pro membership, agents are going to get access to the Safe Avid, which will identify the words that increase the liability for the agent, such as there is a leak in the upstairs bathroom that is creating mold on the ceiling, instead of just saying that there is a dark spot on the ceiling above the kitchen. And now that we've gone through the process from the seller's point of view, I'm now going to transition into the live environment to show you the process as an agent as we walk through the steps to order an NHD report and complete an avid. So now you can take off your seller hat and put back on your agent hat as we go through the user interface as an agent. Now, first, we're going to go up to the top right-hand corner of the page, and we're going to click on New Transaction to create that new transaction. First, it's going to ask you who is the primary agent for this transaction. In this case, I'm going to select Sarah, but if you are a TC, you can select your agent from the list. I'll select Sarah, click Continue. And next it's going to ask me about the property information. Now I can search by the MLS. If I click on Search by MLS, click on the dropdown, I can choose one of the MLSs, and then I can enter the MLS number, click Continue, and it would pull that information from the MLS for me. However, for this training, I am going to enter an address manually, and I'm going to choose Fairway View Place in Rancho Cucamonga. I'll choose Continue on the bottom right. From there, it's going to ask, what type of transaction are you creating? Is this a listing? Is this a purchase? We're going to say for this instance, it's going to be a listing since we're doing our disclosures. And we're going to select the status next. In this case, I'm going to say I'm preparing. And then I have the option to apply a transaction template. And transaction templates, just to give you a little synopsis of what they are. These templates allow you to add documents or forms ahead of time, as well as parties. So for instance, if I know for all of my listings, I'm going to need an RLA, I can add that RLA ahead of time to the template. And let's say I always have the same TC that's working with me on all of my listings, I can add that TC to the template ahead of time as well. That way, when I come in to create a new transaction, I could select from my list, select in this instance, my standard listing template, and then it would be applied in any of those forms, and any of those parties that are added to that template ahead of time will now show up in my new transaction. And notice that you can stack templates as well. So for instance, maybe you have a standard listing template and you have an HOA template. You can add that here and stack them one on top of each other. I'll click Continue to go through my next part of the process, which is going to be adding any additional individuals to the listing team. Maybe there's another agent, you want to add the broker's information. You'll see that it did pull over my TC from that transaction template ahead of time, but I could add another team admin or TC here as well. I'll click Continue. And next it's going to ask me to add that seller. I'll click on Add a Seller in the middle. This is someone you've worked with before, it's in your contacts list. You can select them from the list down below. If it's somebody you have not worked with, you can always choose Create New Contact. Fill out their information, and then click Save. Before the training today, I am going to be selecting Miguel Estrada as my seller. I'll scroll down, click Save, and then I'll click Continue at the bottom right to go to the next section. From here, there's one more page and allows you to add any additional details for this transaction. I can add any additional parties. I have my agent, my TC, and my seller, but I can choose to add any additional parties at this time. I also have my property information. If I click on the dropdown, if you use that MLS import, it would pre-fill all this information for you. Notice how you can upload a cover photo as well. This essentially acts as a cover sheet. Any information that is applied to this property information section will pre-fill in your forms going forward. Once all the information is set, you can adjust the information for the listing, purchase, or commission, and then select Continue down at the bottom. Next, we're going to be going into our disclosure section, and there's two ways to do this. You can click on Disclosures on the left, or you can choose Prepare Disclosure Package. Both of them will take you to the same spot. If I click on it, you'll notice under my workflow, I have my seller disclosures, NHD report, and avent. So let's go through this process. First, I can click anywhere within the seller disclosures tile, and it's going to allow me to start inviting that seller to complete these forms. By default, the TDS and SBQ will be added. However, you can remove these if needed, and you can even add any additional forms. Then click from my dropdown, search through my disclosure forms. Let's say we're going to add in our lead-based paint form, and then click Continue. From here, I can enter the block, lot, or APN number, but this would be pulled over if you use that MLS import. Next, I'm going to say that the agent will attach the avent form, since we're going to complete that during the training today. Next up is the property in an HOA, condominium, planned unit development. I'm going to say no in this case. And then it asks what type of property this is. In this instance, it is a single family home. I'll scroll down to the bottom, click Continue on the bottom right. And next, it's going to ask me who actually needs to fill out this form and who is not going to fill it out. So for instance, if there is a lawyer that you need to add as another party to the transaction that just needs to view this form before the seller fills it out, you can add that individual, and then you just click on the dropdown and select Won't Fill, and they will receive a copy of that form, but they will not be the one filling it out. In this instance, Miguel Estrada is going to be the only person filling out this form. I'll click Continue on the bottom right. And next, it brings up information. It gives you the option to upgrade to Glide Pro to get those premium seller disclosures, collaborative messaging, and more. However, you do also have the option to give this option to the seller for a $99 fee for those same premium seller features. You also have the option to add a note by checking this box, entering in your message, and this would be displayed right after the advisory, the disclosure advisory, that would be seen by that seller. If you scroll down, you can adjust the information for the subject or the message of that email. If this is a long email that you add in a paragraph to, you can always save it as a template and then apply that template at a later time, or at any time you can use this default that you see here. I'll scroll down, click Send, and it's going to send off that request to fill out those disclosure forms. You'll notice it's going to take me right into my NHD report to order it. So I can go here. If you do not want to order it at this time, you can always click the X on the top left. It's going to take you back to your disclosure section. And then when you're ready, you can click into the tile for the NHD report, and it'll take you right back to that same page we were just on. We do have 8 different options for NHD report companies. Let's say I select Snap NHD, scroll down, select Next. From here, I can select the report type. Let's say we're going to select the premium report. And then you also have the option to add a representative. If this is somebody that you commonly work with at that NHD company, you can click, add their email or the referral code, and then click Add. Next, you would select Order Details. From here, you're going to enter in the information for the agent, any escrow information if applicable, and then select Place Order. In this case, since it is just a training, I am going to go back, but we're going to pretend that I did place that NHD report order. And the next part of the process is going into the avent, filling out that avent. I can click anywhere within this tile. Once I click into it, it's going to ask me, how would you like to complete the avent? You can either upload a completed avent if you've already completed it, or as we're going to do in today's training, we're going to go through Glide's guided avent workflow. Once I click, it's going to ask me, is this property a duplex, triplex, or fourplex? I'm going to say no in this instance and select continue. And then it's going to ask for the brokerage name. I can enter the name in, select next. And it's expecting that you're going to be doing this inspection on your cell phone as you're walking around the property. It's going to have the inspection time that you can adjust, the time and date. Click continue. It also has information on the weather. Just like before, you can adjust this information if needed. Click continue. Then it's going to ask who else was present at the property. This could be another agent, or maybe it's the seller that is going to be with you at that time. Select continue. And now you're going to start adding those property observations. You have two ways to do this. In the middle of the screen, you can select add new, or on the top right, select that add new button and start making your observations. We'll start at the entry in this case. I select entry, make my observations. Say I see a crack in the top right-hand side of the front door. So I'll make my observation. Then if I was there with a cell phone at that time, I can choose take a photo. Or if I've already taken the photos ahead of time and I'm back home at my computer filling this out, I can always choose attach files, choose from my list of pictures that I've already created, and then click open. From there, it's going to upload the photo. And then once it's uploaded, I'll click save. And here is my first entry. Next up, I'm going to click add new. And let's say we go to the kitchen. We notice that there's a broken pipe under the sink. I'll select kitchen, add in my observation. Then you would be able to take a photo at that time, or just like in this case, I can add my files, add the picture of the broken pipe, select open. Once it's uploaded, select save. You would go through the entire home making your observations, and then you would click done in the bottom right. From there, it's going to ask if you missed any observations. You can take additional photos, additional files, and then click continue. Next up, it's going to ask you if there's any additional rooms or structures. I'm going to say no in this case. And it's going to start generating those PDFs for me. And then it's going to let me know when we're all done. You can download or you can sign with DocuSign at this time. In this case, I'll click finish. And once you've sent off your seller disclosures, you've ordered that NHD report, you've completed your AVID, now it's time to assemble and share a disclosure package. Now, in Northern California, it's become increasingly popular for agents to share those disclosure packages electronically so that after an open house, you're able to share with agents of the interested buyers. To be able to do that, on the top right-hand side, you'll see Share Package button. It's going to give you two options, by email or by link. Under by email, you can select the role, whether it's a buyer agent or the buyer themselves. Then you would be able to enter in their first name and last name, their email, and you have the option to add a personal message. If this is a long paragraph, you can always save it as a template and then apply that template later on if needed. You'd select OK, and it would send off that email. And the second option is to use by link. If I click on by link, by default, it is going to say link sharing disabled. You will have to come in and click and choose from one of the three available options. The first option is the agent must approve access before viewers can view. If you choose this option, you will receive a banner anytime somebody tries to get access. You'll see a message up in your bell in the top right, and you're going to receive an email. You can also choose to have the viewers enter their name, email, and phone to access. Or if you'd like, you can just choose for anyone with that link that can view it. Let's say I choose the second option here, click OK. I can go back into my share package. I can copy that link. And then I'm going to close this. I'm going to go into an incognito tab for the training. I'm going to paste that link. Once I paste it, it is going to bring up my property. And if you added a cover photo, it would show up here. You'll see the agent's listing information down here on the bottom right. I'm going to say in this case that I'm a buyer looking at this. I'm going to enter my name and email address, and then click continue on the bottom. From here, it is going to pull up that disclosure package. Now, if I had ordered that NHD report, once the seller disclosures have been completed, they would show up down here on this list as well, and any other documents that you added into your disclosure package. But you will see that I have my avid that I completed, as well as my cover sheet. And this buyer will be able to e-sign or download this package. I'm going to close out of here. We're going to go back into our other live environment. And notice now on the left-hand side, it'll say share by link. And at any point in time, you can copy this and share that link with other individuals. And down below under share activity, once I click on it, you're going to be able to see who has seen the packet and how they've accessed it. Now with a Glide Pro membership, you'll see upgrade to Pro here. With that Glide Pro membership, you're also going to be able to see how much they reviewed, if they downloaded it, as well as the date that it was reviewed. And this really becomes a lead generation tool so that you can see who is truly interested in purchasing the home. So now that we've showed you how to share the disclosure package, we're going to go back into our slide deck. During today's training, we first took a look at an overview of Glide's platform. Then we showed you how you can adjust your account settings. Next, we ran through the process of creating a new transaction and requesting seller disclosures, as well as how to order NHD reports and complete an avid. Lastly, we finished the training by reviewing how to share disclosure packages. That's it for our training for today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to our support team by emailing support@glide.com. You can also visit our Help Center by navigating to help.glide.com for many more additional resources.